The conversation around gun control continues today. Good evening. This is CTV News for August 7th. I'm Byron Scott.
And I'm Patricia Vallone. Thank you for joining us this evening. President Trump says that he is open to calling on Congress to return from recess to strengthen background checks for gun buyers, but sees no political appetite for banning assault rifles. Trump's comments came as he left the White House to visit Dayton, Ohio and El Paso, Texas after mass shootings in both cities over the weekend. He also dismissed critics who have suggested his rhetoric on race and immigration is partially to blame for a rise in violent hate crimes.
The screens, the cruisers, the chaos.
Well, I'm looking to do background checks. I think background checks are important. I don't want to put guns into the hands of mentally unstable people or people with rage or hate, sick people. I don't want to, I'm all in favor of it.
There was a time when this was bipartisan. And so we're looking for those people in Congress to come together because the majority of Americans agree, so this should be an action. Do I think that we're going to see another mass shooting tomorrow or Friday? Probably, because Washington will not move.
The president encountered protesters in both locations. Dayton was the site where a shooter killed 9 people on Sunday, and in El Paso, a gunman killed 22 on Saturday.
And as the president visited both cities, 2 Democratic candidates confront the president on gun violence and white supremacy. At a campaign stop at Emmanuel AME Church in Charleston, South Carolina, where a white man gunned down 9 people in 2015, Senator Cory Booker told supporters that white supremacy has always been a problem in our American story. He called for action to restrict the sales of certain firearms and for federal agencies to investigate white nationalism and hate crimes. Former Vice President Joe Biden telling supporters in Iowa that Trump has fanned the flames of white supremacy.
When he said after Charlottesville, there were, and I quote, very fine people on both sides. I said then it gave license and safe harbor to white supremacists and neo-Nazis and to the Ku Klux Klan. These words not only stunned America, but they stunned the world. And in doing so, he assigned a moral equivalence between those spewing hate and those with the courage to stand against it.
We have the power to act, and we can act to legislate safety even if we cannot legislate love. We must act to prevent people who should not have guns from getting them.
Earlier this year, Booker releasing his own plan to curb gun violence, which includes loosening or closing gun sale loopholes and investing in communities affected by gun violence. Well, the mass shootings have sparked renewed attention to so-called red flag laws. Maryland's red flag or extreme risk protective order law took effect last October. It allows law enforcement to confiscate firearms from a person deemed by the courts to be an immediate and present danger to himself and others. So far, the Office of the Sheriff has served over 70 extreme risk protective orders in the county here, collecting more than 130 guns and 350,000 rounds of ammunition.
I think that this is an important law, and really the benefits work in a couple of different ways. They are available to domestic violence partners, so that when victims of domestic violence, in extreme cases where there is a threat of the use of a handgun, there's an ability to take the weapons out of the house in a situation like that. But this is also a broader concept than that. This is really about giving family members and mental health providers and others, even coaches, the ability when they see extreme behavior and they know that there is the possibility of somebody getting a handgun, that they have the ability to obtain this order and have guns taken from an individual that might be in mental distress.
Across the state, more than 780 extreme protection orders have been issued.
Supporters of gun control are livid that the Hogan administration is relaxing gun restrictions just days after the recent mass shootings. Under the directive, Maryland State Police are allowing business owners who have restrictions on concealed carry permits for handguns to now get them lifted. Previously, many owners were allowed to carry the guns only when they were on the job or traveling to and from work. There's no word on how many permit owners would be affected by the change.
A Prince George's police officer accused of repeatedly punching a handcuffed suspect testifies in court. Keisha Butts has our story.
The trial continues for Corporal Stephen Downey, a Prince George's County cop who allegedly punched a man in the face during an arrest. Downey testified today. Downey says after the suspect was arrested and placed in the back of a police cruiser, he used force because he was afraid the suspect was going to assault him. The incident happened in this parking lot at a CVS in Temple Hills last October, where Downey and 2 other cops were responding to a burglary taking place. The 2 cops who testified yesterday say that they saw Downey hit the man several times in the face. Downey has been charged with second-degree assault and misconduct in office. Closing arguments are expected to take place tomorrow. At the courthouse, Keisha Butts, CTV News.
And that trial continues tomorrow.